Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Mirror Now. I'm Hina Gambhir. Just imagine a crime is committed in 2014. Now pay attention to this, viewers. And the person is given bail in 2014 or maybe 2015 or 16. And 7 years later, suddenly there are new rules in place saying that the crime committed in 2014 will attract 10 years imprisonment and a fine of at least 1 lakh rupees. You're told that this penal provision wasn't there in 2014 when the crime was committed, but in 2021 it gets added. So now you have to go to jail. Sounds a bit bizarre, right? But that's what it seems is happening. In 2014, government amended the NDPS Act to allow ease of access for certain narcotic substances for medicinal uses. But the drafters of the law forgot to mention the punishment for illegal diversion or violation of the law. So now the government has brought an amendment to correct that error. But the offence is being made retrospective, which simply means that anybody who violated this particular amendment, the 2014 amendment, will be punished as per the new law in 2021. Is this a case of an error being committed to remove an error as being alleged by the opposition in this matter? That's our big debate, the drug law dilemma. The NDPS Act dilemma is our big debate on Urban Debate on Mirror Now this evening. And joining us on the broadcast this evening is our editor, Nikunj Garg, who is first going to put things in perspective for our viewers. One, why this is a very, very important issue that needs to be discussed. And also to help us understand, Nikunj, can criminal law be amended retrospectively?
Hina, there are multiple questions that arise out of this move of the government. Some of them are legitimately being raised in the parliament by the opposition. But some of them need independent examination by the jurists, civil rights activists, noted criminal lawyers in the public domain. Parliament is one forum, but in the public domain, you need other scrutiny of the actions of the government. Now, why I say so is this is completely uncharted, completely unprecedented manner and completely uncharted territory in which government is trying to venture into. Whether or not enough thought or enough energy or enough focus has been put into behind this move is something that is suspect. Opposition says that the government hasn't thought it through, like it has alleged in the case of many other laws brought in by NDA government in the last 7 years. And again, the allegation is that they're trying to ram it through. Government has a defense. Now, whether that defense is robust enough, many neutral observers, Hina, will say that it falls short because the action of the government comes almost 7 years after this anomaly arose and the government was required to act. 7 years after, over 90 months after, if you decide to act on a particular anomaly and find the situation anomalous, then quite clearly questions will be asked and questions are being asked. Now, why did I say that this is completely uncharted territory and an unprecedented move? Is because of the fact that you raised criminal laws cannot be amended retrospectively. The Constitution under Article 20 and 21 says that people cannot be, citizenry cannot be punished for the acts of omission of commission or criminal acts by the laws that did not exist at that particular point in time when the crime was allegedly committed. Now, this is something that is being amended or appended on its head by this introduction of this amendment by the government. For the government to say that they are just trying to correct an anomalous situation of a particular section of the Drug Act is all very well. But its ramifications, its repercussions on the society at large and the criminal jurisprudence overall are massive. And my own sense is that people on the treasury benches, particularly in the on the side of the drafting side and the drafters of the law, haven't actually really assessed the consequences. That is something that you're going to debate with your panelists. However, I must say that people must also know, our viewers must also know, that at this time when we take up this story and when we discuss this story, the drugs law or the anti-drug law is amongst the most contentious laws in this country. We have seen superstar Shah Rukh Khan's son, according to many neutral observers, being wrongly incarcerated for almost a month. and High Court judgment says without ample evidence, only based on conjunctures. The Narcotics Control Bureau, the principal custodian of the NDPS Act from the side of the government of India. Remember, NDPS Act is also adjudicated or applied by the state police forces. But from the government of India's side, its custodian is the Narcotics Control Bureau. Its activities are under immense scrutiny, immense scanner. Some of its own officers are being probed by the agency under orders of its boss, the Director General, for extortion attempts. So quite clearly, at such a moment, if any kind of amendments to the drug law are being introduced in the parliament, when its principal custodian itself, the Narcotics Control Bureau, is under immense scrutiny, then controversy is bound to arise. In this case, however, it raises larger question of impact on the constitutionality, impact on the criminal jurisprudence, and as I said, entering into a completely uncharted territory. Hina.
Well, thank you, Nikunj, for putting things in perspective for our viewers and helping us understand why this is something that needs to be discussed. The intention may be right of the centre here, because remember, it's only on the order of Tripura High Court that this anomaly is being rectified. That's what government's justification is. But the ramifications are also very, very important, and we really need to understand those as well. And that is why we are now joined by top legal minds who will help us, in fact, decode this NDPS amendment. Remember, on Monday, a bill was moved by the government in the parliament to rectify this anomaly in the Section 27A of the existing Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. Joining us on the broadcast on Urban Debate this evening on Mirror Now is Kailash Vasudev, Senior Advocate Supreme Court, Desh Ratan Nigam, who is Advocate Supreme Court, Khushbu Jain, Advocate Supreme Court, and we will also be joined by Karuna Nandi, Senior Advocate in Supreme Court. Good evening to all of you. Let me begin the discussion with you, Desh Ratan Nigam. Do you think this is a case of an error being committed to remove an error?
Let us understand what is an amendment process. If something is omitted from a particular act, then it is specifically mentioned such and such clause or section is omitted. In this case, in 2014, no such clause was there in the Amendment Act, omitting Section 2, subclause 8A. And therefore, it is a clerical or typographical error in drafting. It's not a drafting error, as they are saying. It is typographical or clerical error in drafting. Now, secondly, once that is not done, so it has not been taken away. Now, secondly, the courts in the past have read, in such a situation, they read into it. So in this case, Tripura High Court should not have asked the Parliament to, make an amendment. They could have read into it, because that particular, clause was already mentioned in 27A. So in my opinion, the courts, by way of abundant caution, they have asked the Parliament to, rectify this anomaly. As I said, that amendment, while omitting a particular clause or a section, specifically mentions that they are omitted. In this case, this has not happened, since another clause, essential narcotic drugs, had come in its place. So therefore, the typographical error occurred. There was no intention of the Parliament to omit this particular clause. So the court, in my opinion, can read that clause into it. However, by way of abundant caution, the courts have asked the Parliament to do necessary correction of this error.
Okay. Desh Ratan Nigam, thank you for, in fact, helping us understand the intention here. Stay on with us. We have lawyer Karuna Nandi also now joining us. Karuna, what is your opinion? What do you make of the amendment here? And would it mean that the criminal law, in simple terms, is being amended retrospectively by the government?
It's clear that it is a clerical error, as the gentleman before me had mentioned. However, you are creating a new offence, which you are essentially creating a new offence. And then I think jurists are divided into two camps, where that the Tripura High Court actually dealt with in quite a detailed way while considering a purported amendment to the NDPS Act, right? The judgment for for the lawyers interested, is Court on its own motion, the High Court of Tripura Agartala versus the Union of India. I think that you can't create a fresh offense retrospectively. So I think that any offense should be prospective. And yes, clearly it was a sloppy drafting error, and really quite sloppy, because the exception earlier looked like a very, very limited, the sort of provision looked very like a very limited provision, whereas of course necessarily it's quite broader. And so I think the government really needs to take responsibility for all those who slip through the net, who are financing illicit trafficking of drugs. But I don't think you can create create a criminal offense retrospectively. And I think that courts must stand strong on that.
Mr. Kailash Vasudev, could you help us understand a little bit about the impact this error had on the cases so far, or why it was really important to correct if this was just a clerical error?
Good evening. Clerical error in legislation can be remedied. There is no dispute on that fact. Question in this case is it's a criminal offense. You are bringing in a whole group of offenses with retrospective effect of 2014 and making a lot of offenses with effect from a period 7 years ago. Criminal law does not permit amendments to laws and make them retrospective. If there's an error, the error is being rectified today, it must be applied prospectively. Moment you bring in retrospectivity, the purpose of the correction is defeated. To my mind, this is incorrect. You can make the law prospective, yes. There's an error, yes. It has prevailed for 7 years, yes. But the effect of the amendment or the change in section 27A can only be prospective. That is my firm view, because in criminal law jurisprudences, offenses cannot relate back. Even in tax matters, it is a question of great controversy. With regard to other laws, there are problems also. So retrospectivity is an area which is very trite and has to be looked upon in a very controlled manner. You cannot have a blanket application of a statute bringing in new offenses. That is my view.
Okay. Khushbu Jain, where do you stand on the amendment?
All right. So I think much has already been spoken by all the three learned counsels before me. But let me just water it down for a better understanding that what exactly are we talking about over here. So what exactly is Section 27A we are talking about? So if you read, the text of this provision says that any offences mentioned under Section 2(7)(a) of subclause 1(5) are punishable through Section 27. However, this Section 2 subclause was supposed to be a catalogue of offence which does not exist after 2014 amendment. So amendment happened, that specific offence did not exist. So if 27A penalizes a blank list or a non-existent provision, it is practically or virtually inoperable. So we are talking about a crime which did not exist. So half of the portion was amended. Only a clerical mistake where the punishment in Section 27A is there is where amendment did not happen. Now it was made to allow, let's understand what was 2014 amendment. 2014 amendment was to allow for a better medical access to narcotic drugs. NDPS Act itself is very stringent despite being, usage of these medicines or morphines, painkillers in drugs in hospitals. It was very stringent. So 2014 amendment came essentially to remove state barriers in transporting, in licensing drugs classified as essential narcotics drugs and made it centralized. This by doing this, they gave a definition that essential narcotics drugs and allowing this manufacturer to transport, inter-transport, import, export, sale, purchase, consumption, use of these essential drugs. Now, when this amendment came, they missed the part of amending the enabling provision in Section 27A to change it to Section 27A to Section 27B. This was the only clerical that mistake happened. So practically, if I talk about, it's just a small clerical error. If the crime doesn't exist, the definition of the crime itself doesn't exist, how do you punish? coming to your second question, that whether retrospective, which is not linked over here, but let me give you one simple answer: that can a criminal law be imposed retrospectively? No, it cannot. It will go against the Constitution, which talks about Article 2021, which says that no person shall be convicted in any offence except for the violation of the law in force at the time of commission of the act. This is very clear over here. So that at least part is very clear, that criminal law cannot be imposed retrospectively, but we need to water it down, that what exactly are we talking over here when we talk about Section 27 and also talk about the definitions in Section 2. To you, Veena.
Okay. So, Mr. Deshrattan Nigam, now the point that I want to make here is that you've heard the three sides here. Isn't it in a way also a vindication of what the Chief Justice of India said recently, that legislature probably does not assess the impact of the laws it passes and leads to big issues? He was recently speaking, in fact, at the valedictory function of Constitution Day, and this was the remark that came. And today we are discussing as to what could be the ramification of an amendment of this kind, which, according to the opposition, according to learned lawyers here on the panel as well, could actually be a big error. It could actually lead to, something that the country would just call it a constitutional crisis of the sorts, because you will be, in a way, amending a criminal act retrospectively, punishing someone as per today's laws for the act that was committed in 2014 and after that.
In fact, there is no doubt about that. Criminal law cannot be amended retrospectively. It started with Jwala-Ram's case versus state of Pepsu. And however, while amending in 2014, you will have to see whether that act specifically omitted this or not. Because in an amending act, it is always written such and such section omitted. And then it is written substituted or not substituted. Whether the intention of the parliament at that point of time was to give up this section or not. And therefore, when the parliamentary intention was not to give up this section, the courts generally, because 27A clearly mentions that. However, 27, subclause 8A is now substituted by essential narcotic drugs. So the fact that in 27A it continues and the punishment is also there, therefore intention of the legislature has to be gone into, whether this was an amendment or not, or a typical error which has come into picture. Therefore, the offense still exists. It may not be there because of the clerical error, but the courts could have read into it. Courts have done it and given that kind of interpretation. Always we have seen in the Supreme Court, even if that thing is not mentioned. So parliamentary debate or discussion at that point of time, or whatever the parliamentary standing committee which went into it, will have to be seen what was their intention. So unless, and prima facie on the face of it, it does not show, the act does not show that in 2014, the Amendment Act, that this specific clause was specifically omitted. So it cannot be said that amendment has taken place. So the courts can read it. I think courts, again, I am repeating, the court by way of abundant caution have asked Parliament to, correct this anomaly. They could have themselves read into it, and Supreme Court has read this kind of language in so many cases in the past. So I don't see that this is a retrospective amendment in criminal law. I don't see it that way. It is no fresh. No, just one more sentence.
Yes, sir.
It is not a fresh offense. That offense is still continuing, as seen in 27A. Therefore, this clerical error will not make it that some fresh offense is coming into the picture. So therefore, intention of Parliament has to be gone into, the legislature has to be gone into.
Okay. Karuna Nandi, will you like to respond to this? Shouldn't the government instead come out probably with a fresh bill?
I think that there's just the bit on it being retrospective that they need to deal with. And yes, they will have some egg on their face, but it's better to have a bit of egg on your face and do something that is constitutionally correct. Now, as the gentleman before me was saying, we frequently read into parliamentary intention things that to give effect to a particular statute, right? But there is also the doctrine of casus omissus, which is that if something doesn't exist, you can't read into it. So, I mean, we can't really do that. right? Because, and particularly if in doing so, we will be in effect getting rid of something that is such a fundamental protection of predictability and rule of law. You know, I think the rule against retroactive criminality is really that fundamental. And so in that, I think they should just go back and come back with another bill, frankly.
Yes, and before I go across to Mr. Kailash Vasudev for a quick reaction, once again I want to go across to Mr. Deshratan Nigam. Like Karun Anandi was also mentioning, isn't it also a violation of Article 20 of the Constitution, which says no person shall be convicted of any offence except for violation of a law in force at the time of the commission of the act charged as an offence? Won't there be a clear violation?
See, that is what I am saying. If you consider this as an amendment that is omitted, then there is no offense, then it amounts to fresh offense. However, I have already taken a position that this is not an amendment. It is a clerical typographical error where the offense already exists as seen in section 27A. And therefore, there is no fresh offense. It's just a continuation. And therefore, the courts have asked for that errors to be rectified. By way of, obviously it can only be done by way of an amendment in the parliament. Therefore, I don't see it to be a violation of any of the fundamental rights that you're saying.
So today, the issues that are being raised by the opposition, according to you, are misplaced?
Let me answer that. When they say it will lead to a bad law, the law already exists. Let me tell you, it was already an offense, not specifically omitted by way of an amendment. Amendments specifically omit. A clerical error clearly shows that there was nothing in the Amending Act in 2014 omitting this particular subclause. Therefore, the offense continues, in my opinion, and it does not require any violation or lead to a bad law. It was a good law then because it was not struck down by any of the courts. That clause was already existing and people were being tried and punished under that particular section.
Okay.
And amendments have not specifically given up, and therefore that offense continues.
Let Mr. Kailash Vasudev also now come into the debate. If I'm not wrong, sir, then, some, in fact, accused did use this particular clause and managed to get bail, and probably that was the reason that Tripura High Court had to eventually ask the government to correct this anomaly. So it was, in a way, being misused by some.
It was not being misused. It wasn't there. Please understand. You may have a definition clause. A definition clause not coming within the ambit of punishment is not a law at all. 27A does not include this as an offense. Other provisions are there. So if it is not there, therefore you cannot possibly take somebody into custody for violation of an act, for a violation offense which is not defined in the specific act. Just see 27A. I'll read it to you. I was just, as a matter of fact, considering what Mr. Nigam was saying, so I picked up the act. It says, whoever indulges in financing directly or indirectly any of the activities specified in 1 to 5 of clause 8A. So it is only those offences which come within this domain. The other clauses don't come. So if the other clauses don't come, they've not been made an offence by the act. Hence, anybody can take advantage.
So in simple terms,
simple position in law, you make an offence, you define an offence, you don't bring it into the domain of punishment. It is not a law which you can enforce. It's as clear as that. Because what do you say by the amendment? You bring in illicit trading, illicit traffic, which is mentioned in 8B, in juxtaposition of 8A. You don't remove 8A, you bring it in juxtaposition. So therefore, you're bringing in an offense in 2021, which you might have referred to in 2012, 14, 5, 6, whatever you call it, but not given effect to it. How do you possibly punish somebody with retrospective effect in view of Articles 20 and 21?
Yes, in fact, that's the point.
Not an offense.
That's exactly the point that I wanted you to...
Just a minute. If the court has made an observation, it tells you of the poor quality of parliamentary debates and parliamentary framing of laws. This is an omission by Parliament. Parliamentary omissions cannot give you an advantage in a later point of time. You should have checked your legislative content before passing it or not passing it. Somebody should have raised an objection. Now the court is raising an objection, telling Parliament, look, do something about this. So you cannot make it retrospective. You will have to make it prospective from the day it comes into the statute book. That's my opinion.
Yes, and I'll get Mr. Deshratan Nigam to respond to this. But before that, Karuna Nandi also wants to come in. Then I'll go across to Khushbu as well. Yes, Karuna.
I agree with everything Mr. Vasudev has said, except for the last bit, which is I don't think that it's as broad as an error in Parliament, because after all, the people who are pointing out the fundamental protections of Article 20, those are also parliamentarians, Bills are not drafted by Parliament in the abstract. Bills are drafted by, it's a government bill, It's a government bill. So it will have been drafted, presumably, I think, by the Home Ministry, right? And so therefore, I think that responsibility has to be fixed where responsibility is, which is likely with the Home Ministry. And sloppy drafting has a lot to answer for in legislation, because ex post facto, after the fact, what happens is that in court, in constitutional courts that don't have a lot of bandwidth and where debates are turn around, one word here and there, that luxury is not there. And so I think that specific drafting, which is in accordance with the Constitution, is really, really important. And we see that not happening over and over and over again. And this has also been true in the past, but because, we currently have a government that is the government, let me be clear that this includes a large number of bills, including the triple talaq legislation, which they were saying was something that, the BJP brought in, since Mr. Nigam is here, but merely sort of criminalized something that the Supreme Court had already done, which is render OTOs the 3 words that purported to, divorce someone. So if you say now kabaddi, 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 that's what it meant, right? Talaq, talaq, talaq had no meaning, and then they criminalized it. You have the purported, there's just lots and lots of examples of this. And I think that at the first instance, not just being careful with regard to clerical errors, but making sure that your legislation is in accordance with the Constitution of India is the duty of any bill that the government proposes. And it is the duty of Parliament to make sure that such bills are, not passed, even if the ruling party is in a significant majority.
Fair point. And Mr. Kailash Vasudev, Khushbu, I'll just come to you in just a bit. Mr. Kailash Vasudev, the point that I was initially trying to make was that this clause had a potential to be misused, and probably that is the reason why it was necessary, that this gets amended.
The potential of misuse is always there. Which government doesn't misuse the law for its own benefit? You are seeing how NDPS has been abused. So many cases. People have been kept in custody for being consumers under 27. You juxtapose the other provision that they're also dealing in the drugs. Actually, they're simple consumers. So you see, the abuse of the NDPS is nothing new. It's been going on since because the NDPS is contrary to normal law. You are, in other laws, you are innocent till proved guilty. And the NDPS, it is to the converse. You are guilty till proved innocent. So there is a marked difference in the 2 acts. The normal law and the NDPS are radically different. And therefore, the opportunity of abuse. You are seeing what is happening to the NDPS authorities. Today, they are being prosecuted. Allegations are being heard because they are trying to tinker around with consumers. So you see, I personally feel no criminal law amendment should be retrospective, even if it's an error.
Okay.
The moment you go into that domain, you are going into a very dangerous domain because you're going to give extraordinary powers for prosecution of offenses which are more than 5 or 7 years old. You will prosecute the man, there will be no evidence. After 4 or 5 years, he'll be in custody and released. That is not the purpose of this. It cannot be the purpose of law. Our prosecutions in this country have dropped eventually to a conviction rate of less than 60%. How do you encourage this kind of a situation? At the end of the day, CBI prosecutions are 57%. Where are we driving ourselves to? So my personally of the view, this should not be retrospective, whatever be the circumstances. You can have the law on your statute book, bring it into effect from 21, and make it prospective. Don't take it back in time.
Okay. Khushbu Jain also wants to come in, and then I'll go across to Desh Ratan Nigam as well. Yes, Khushbu Jain.
All right. So let's go back and let's understand which section are we talking about. We are talking about Section 8, Subsection 2, Subsection 8A and B. Now, B, the illicit traffic in relation to narcotics, drugs and psychotropic substance already existed prior to 2014 amendment. Let's not forget that the offence which we are talking about right now already existed. Now, the only change that came after 2014, let me just read that very clearly, that the clause 8A shall be relettered as clause 8B. And before clause 8B, as so relettered, following clause set shall be inserted. Now, 8A was the new amendment that came in. 8A already existed. 8A had to become 8B, and 8A was inserted by saying that essential narcotic drugs shall be notified, whatever is notified for by the central government for medical and scientific use. So let's understand, we are not talking about medical and essential drugs. We are talking about the illicit trade of narcotics drugs, which already existed prior to 2014. Now, the only difficulty that came is applicability of this thing, because the other effect which had to come was the offence of this. The punishment was in under Section 27, and the amendment in Section 27 was not taken because 2.8a already existed. 2.8b was the one also to be amended over there. That's the basic minute clerical mistake which was not done. So if you're thinking that we're introducing a new crime and we are imposing that retrospectively, no.
Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying that. It's all about the, retrospective amendment in just Section 27A that we are discussing. I want to now go across to Karuna Nandi, and I want Mr. Kailash Vasudev to also respond to this. But Karuna, to you first. Talking about
Can I also come in?
Yes, Desh Ratan Nigam. Quick
I
response.
I thought the circle was going to be completed with me, but again, it's restarted.
Okay.
In fact, let me tell you, Khushbu, in fact, summed it up in the end.
It's not that there are three of us, there can't be a circle.
No. It's always a circle. Remember, life is a circle.
But let me tell you one thing. I give equal time to all my guests.
No, it's fine. Because you'd be coming to me after.
No,
Khushbu.
because I have a specific question for them, and that's why I mentioned this.
Because what I'm saying, Khushbu summed it up. Is it bringing in a new offense? No, certainly not. It's not bringing in any new offense. Offense already exists. It was not set aside by any court of law.
Right.
That definition already existed. The amendment clearly shows in 2014 it was not specifically omitted.
Okay.
Please remember that. Everything that is omitted, left, it is set so in an amending act that so and so is being specifically omitted, and then it is mentioned why it is being done so. It may or may not mention why, but it is specifically mentioned that such and such clause or section is specifically omitted. It has not happened in 2014 Amendment Act. So it's clearly a clerical error or typographical error, and courts need not even refer it to. They can read it into it because it has not been set aside.
You're questioning the order of Tripura High Court now, Mr. Desh Ratan Nigam?
Yes, I can. We all can question.
Of course, everybody can. But here I'm asking you, are you then doubting their wisdom, doubting their judgment that, it's not a big deal? I'm just asking you.
Whenever we challenge a court's order, we always doubt their wisdom. Remember that as lawyers, we always, whenever we are challenging an order in a higher court of law. What I am saying, it's a constitutional court. It could have read into it instead of asking Parliament to do it.
Okay. Fair point. I take your point. And of course, we'll see how the government eventually responds to this, because in Parliament, clearly it has become a big issue. Now, a question specifically for Mr. Kailash Vasudev and Karuna Nandi. Now, talking about the issue of retrospective amendment, because I want to just widen the scope of this debate a little bit, and I just don't want to focus on the criminal aspect for a bit. Now, in May 2006, after a JPC report, the government created Office of Profit Law via an amendment, and that time Mr. Hansraj Bhardwaj moved a bill When you're a member of parliament, you cannot hold another post. At that time, in 2006, 1959 law was amended with retrospective effect. That time, all the, every member of the UPA came together and supported the retrospective amendment. So today, why questions specifically are being raised on the retrospective aspect? Karuna Nandi first, and then I'll go across to Kailash Vasudev, sir.
There's a reason that the bar against retrospective amendment is in criminal law is constitutional, right? Because you may, in other areas of law where there is no criminal penalty, have a retrospective amendment. Because, going to jail or paying a penalty is something that is considered so fundamental in terms of one's citizenship and one's liberty, it concerns one's liberty, that the idea of fairness there is that you should know, that's also a fiction, to be honest, to some extent, because obviously there's a lot of niceties to even criminal law that people don't know about. For example, people don't know that under Section 298 of the IPC that you can't make a sound that offends somebody's religious convictions, right? However, the principle is correct, which is that you should know and there should be a law that you are violating when you are doing the act. And this is why the standard of proof that is required to convict you is beyond reasonable doubt. And this, of course, is why we have so many acquittals and many of those people will be guilty, right? But still, we let them off rather than convicting an innocent person. So I think there is this very fundamental difference between the criminal law and other law.
Mr. Kailash Vasudev, just on the issue of retrospective amendment.
It's a very simple perspective. Article 20, law in force. So it is a law in force on the day that the offense takes place. Today, you are bringing in a law which was not in force in 2015, taking it back 5 years and making those offenses come within the domain of the NDPS. That's a simple answer. If it is the Article 20 position, the law in force will be the law in force today. It is not the law in force in 2015. If you take it that way, the entire criminal jurisprudence will be standing on its head. Civil laws are different because the civil consequences are of a different nature. You may have a taxation statute which goes back in time. The amendment by Mr. Bhardwaj pertained to what? The 1959 law.
Yes.
The 1959 law said what? It pertained to certain rights. You are only restoring a right or taking away a right. That's a different situation. Take, for example, the amendment which came, the 42nd Amendment, repealing the rights of people under 19(1)(f).
Yes.
So, see the impact of that. You have a right to legislate, yes, but you have a right to legislate within the ambits of the Constitution. So when you legislate, it is for the courts to test. It is a judicial review. Judicial review today says you cannot possibly punish a man for an offense which he has committed at a point of time by retrospective law. That's the simple position which you find.
Okay. Now, you're all very learned people, and I want to play devil's advocate here, and I want each one of you to respond to the question that I'm asking. Now, if a terrorist or if somebody who is misusing the transportation for medicinal purposes clause to fund terror, and he committed this particular crime a couple of years ago, don't you think in that kind of a situation, this retrospective amendment could actually be useful? Let's begin with Ms. Karuna Nandi.
I think that is the responsibility, the enhanced punishment, right? The fact that that particular illicit financial terrorism is not going to get that enhanced punishment is something that the government must take responsibility for, because that is what this so-called clerical error will give rise to.
Okay. Yes.
However, there be no conviction? No, of course there'll be a conviction. I mean, I think we must also remember that when there is a a larger offence, it subsumes within it a number of subsidiary offences, right? So it's not like no conviction. There would definitely be a conviction under other provisions.
Okay. Khushbu Jain.
Exactly.
Yes.
No, I'll just conclude by saying that again coming back to the point that definition, the crime already existed. The only difficulty came when amendment came in place. You did not make an amendment at all the required places, which was required introducing new section. Now, when you're talking about illicit traffic, yes, the problem is lawyers like us will take benefit of this. Because, even if you talk about definition, it exists in definition, but under what offense are you picking me up? Under what offense are you going to punish me? You cannot punish me because you cannot go beyond the act. So, yes, that created a difficulty which need to be addressed. And I think the same thing is what Learned High Court brought in light, that how do we punish somebody?
Right.
I cannot go beyond the act. So that's where, yes, it was required. Much time has been passed. I completely understand. And that kind of an error is not expected out of at a parliament level. But at the same time, I would say that we are not bringing anything retrospectively over here. The thing already existed. The only thing is there was minute clerical error, which was not there.
Okay. Deshratan Nigam. Yes.
Believe me, as a lawyer, let me tell you, this will go to Supreme Court. And Supreme Court, to the best of my, I don't know what it will think, but let me risk my reputation. They will carve out an exception of such kind of clerical error in retrospective amendments. And this will be a very strict interpretation of these clerical errors. It will not be anything. I mean, the law is already settled so far as retrospective amendments to criminal law is concerned. There is no doubt about it. And because a person cannot be convicted of something which he does not know is an offense. So the fact remains, though, such kind of a clerical error where the amendment has not specifically omitted this particular offense and the offense continues to exist, it is merely a clerical error. I think, I believe that this will be finally decided in the Supreme Court.
Okay. I give you the last word, Mr. Kailash Vasudev, to the question that I specifically asked. I just played the devil's advocate. How will you counter that argument?
I'm giving you a specific answer. A terrorist is found today to be in possession of drugs a couple of years ago, right? So if he's found in possession of drugs a couple of years ago, 27A was there. It may not be illicit drugs, but harboring, etc. is available, so they could be prosecuted under that. Now I'm going to give you a classic example as to how there's a parliamentary omission in notifying provisions of an act, the All India Railway Protection Force Act. It was amended. The amendments were not notified. All the amendments were not notified. The All India RPF went to the Parliament and said that, look, you've only notified half the act, the other half hasn't come. So the other half was notified 10 years later. But it was given prospective effect, not retrospective effect. So you see, you're pertaining to a force which comes under Article 33C or under the second entry to the first schedule, or to the first list. So to say that you will be able to rectify a situation by taking this into consideration is wrong. Even that amendment came into force prospectively, not retrospectively. There are instances where this has happened. There have been glaring anomalies. Those have been dealt with in parliamentary practice. And the person who rectified it was none other than Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was the chief, who was then in the opposition. So you will find these kind of things happening, but you are dealing with the question of an offense. When you're dealing with an offense, Article 20 is a straight bar on this. You have no parliamentary power to make it retrospective. If you choose to do so for this, you will be choosing to do those for a large number of other situations, which will then again have a lot of ramifications and thinking on what is parliamentary democracy, what are the rights of a citizen, where does he stand under Part 3 of the Constitution, what are his rights under a specific act. So my view is, and I'm very clear about it, terrorist, no terrorist, anybody prior to 2021 cannot be booked under 8B if it comes under statutory notification under 27A with prospective effect. Retrospective, you cannot do it.
All right. I think that sums up the entire issue as well. We'll see what eventually happens in this particular matter in the Parliament, because opposition clearly is demanding a fresh bill, calling it a bad one. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us here on Urban Debate and for this very insightful debate. Thank you very much.